And one of the things that he brought up was just being able to connect with each other. A lot of times you have couples who've been married for years and they don't connect with each other. And you wonder why there's a drift between them. And so you'll see couples who've been married for 25 years or 30 plus years, and then all of a sudden they just get divorced. It's like, what happened? I thought you guys were doing great. But no, after so long, they forget to connect with each other. They forget what got them to the point that they were in, that they're in the beginning of their marriage, you know. And so not only that, another thing that he pointed out was when you're happily married, you're free to be yourself. And you don't have that spouse that's holding you back from your dreams. You don't have that spouse that's keeping you from being all that you want to be. But you're happy. You're free to be who you are. You're free to express yourself. You're free to wear your hair how you want to wear it, and you don't have to deal with the ridicule from your spouse. Or you're free to wear whatever kind of clothes you want to wear. You know, and that's just being a part of being in a happy relationship. But I want you all to talk a little bit more about how do you all, Kenyatta, I needed you to answer the question. How do you keep your husband happy?
Well, first of all, in order to keep your spouse happy, you have to learn your spouse, and you have to know what your spouse desires. You have to know what your spouse likes are and what their dislikes are. My husband is happy with just sitting at home watching TV with me, or taking a walk hand in hand, or it's the simple things. One of the things that I have learned about being in a relationship is that you don't always have to spend a ton of money.
Oh no.
To be happy.
Right.
But that those intimate moments of being alone with your spouse and talking with your spouse and getting to the point where you know the certain size that he makes and what they mean, and just knowing your spouse. And once you get to know your spouse, then you will make them happy. And a lot of times in marriage, women feel like they're not getting what they need, and so if I'm not getting what I need, then I'm not going to give him what he needs.
Absolutely.
You know, I feel like I'm always the one that's giving, or I'm always the one that's putting out, or I'm always the one that's compromising.
Right.
But if you continue on and you do and you make those sacrifices, then I believe God's going to honor those sacrifices. And God's going to honor the seeds that you're planting in your husband, despite what he may or may not be doing, or may not be giving you. And God will reward those seeds that you have planted, and he'll make sure that you get, as they say, double for your trouble.
Right.
That ain't scripture. Don't quote me. That ain't scripture.
We got a comment somebody sent in on the chat, and it's simply, or it's a question, I'm sorry. It says, how do you reignite happiness if it seems lost?
Oh, real
That's
good
a
question.
good question.
Real good question. There's a lot of components here, right? And so you have to ask yourself, am I looking for happiness outside of who I am because I'm not comfortable with who I am? That's first and foremost. Once you establish that and you say, I'm really happy with me, then it's time to have what I call the grown folk conversation.
Right.
That's where you sit down and you say, which is a conversation, adult conversation that we're afraid of because we're scared of the answers. And you say, hey, tell me what I'm not doing. See, that's how you ignite it. You don't put it on the other person. You say, tell me what I'm not doing. And if they say, well, you're not doing, you're not getting up in the mornings like you used to. You're not taking care of yourself like you used to. You walk through the house as if you're angry, and you used to not do that. So you have to work through a process of elimination, right? And again, you have to say, step outside of your emotions and say, what is it that I'm not doing?
And you can't be mad when that person, or resentful when they come to you and they tell you that these are the things that you're doing, and say, well, I'm not doing that. because we don't know how the person is seeing what you're doing.
Right.
You may not think in your mind, well, I may not be doing those things, but if that is how they're seeing it, then you have to take that and you have to digest that. Right. And as my husband says, put the big girl draws on.
You need to do some reevaluation.
You need to reevaluate. Right, and because a lot of times we can't see how we react to things. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we walk around with a mirror everywhere we go. So when someone says something to you, you can't see yourself in your facial expressions. You can't see how you're reacting to what they do or say. And so you always have to take stock in how you may be even feeling that day. You may have woke up with a bad attitude and then that person comes and says something to you and just sets you all the way off in left field. But you don't know where that first seed was planted. So you have to be really careful of that.
And you know, one thing that we as women have a problem with is nagging.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big thing with women. If we could ask our husband to do something, or our man, or whoever you want to say you with, but we could ask them to do something for us, and if they don't do it right then and there, then we have a problem. If they want to sit down and finish watching the football game, oh, we got a problem with that.
Right.
Because it's like, we feel like we have this sense of entitlement that they need to do what I say when I say it. And we have to remember, ladies, that they're not boys. We have men. And so we got to treat them like a man. And a man wants to walk into his house and feel like a king. He doesn't need anybody really just pulling at him and reminding him of all his shortcomings. He wants to feel like he's the king of his castle. And so, ladies, that's what I really want to encourage you all today, is to help your man feel like he's the king of his castle. Create that peaceful environment for him. Help him to feel like he's on top of the world by not pointing out all his shortcomings or reminding him that he left his dirty clothes on the floor, whatever the problem might be, because that's a big problem today. And Brother Minister Jones, if you could just talk about what else it is that's very important for men to keep that peace of mind. What can ladies do?
Ladies, I'll tell you this, and this is important, and hopefully there are men out there, because I'm gonna give you something that you can put in your lunchbox. The problem in relationships is men have an unrealistic fear of relationships. And women have an unrealistic expectation of relationships, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Men, it's difficult for a man to walk down the aisle and get married because of a fear.
Wow.
Now, the thing about that fear is unfounded, which means that somebody men can be a little crazy. You only fear that you know, right? So you've never been married, so you don't know what marriage entails. You heard horror stories, but usually that's because somebody else messed up somewhere else and they're not giving you the whole truth.
Right.
Women have an unrealistic expectation of a relationship and a marriage. It's what they see. My girlfriend said her husband or boyfriend or whoever he may be gets up and he carries her across the room and he cooks breakfast for her and he does all these romantic things. Now, these things are important. But what has to happen is you have to identify where your fear is. You have to say, okay, is my fear baseless? Is my expectations real? And the way we do that is we do what's called introspecting. And when you introspect, what you actually are doing is you're going through a checklist. Why do I need my significant other to bring me food in the bed? Why do I need my significant other to keep telling me I'm handsome or I'm beautiful? Why do I need to be reaffirmed? Because what you'll find that there is some other dynamics being played. See, that the love part is easy. Meeting someone, loving someone, and staying in love, that's where the problem goes. That's where we hit the problem.
That brings me to the next comment question that we have in the chat box. Basically, the person is saying love and happiness is more passionate in the dating phase. Why is that?
Because you have something to prove.
New. It's new.
That's
it's like having a new toy. Your child, yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Your child gets a new toy for Christmas and they play with it and they play with it and they play with it, and then the next couple of weeks they're used to it. It becomes common to them.
Wow.
It becomes something that's not as important. And so the fascination of having this new toy has now dwindled into, oh, it's just a toy.
Wow, that's a good point.
It's just a toy.
One thing me and my husband, we always do occasionally, well, from time to time, we'll ask each other, what can I do to make you happy? And that's just something simple that people can do with their significant others. Just simply ask. Because sometimes you might think you're doing stuff to make that person happy, and where in reality, they don't care nothing about that. Me, I personally, I love to go to sleep to a clean kitchen. But my husband, he might be more concerned about the laundry. So, I have to set aside my personal needs and take care of my husband and make sure he's the king of our castle. And so, not only that, people, we got to be more, ladies especially, we got to kick our emotions to the curb. Because I know when we get caught up in our feelings, a lot of times we want to shut it down. We don't want to be in the bed. We don't want to get intimate. We want to just say, good night, you go to sleep, you take care of yourself, I ain't getting on top, I ain't doing nothing. I'm sorry to be kind of so frank, but that's the reality of the situation, people really get to that point where they just want to withhold from each other, and it shouldn't be like that.
That is an excellent question. Let me throw something out there. If you say to yourself, the passion is less in the middle of the relationship than it was in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Ask yourself this: what am I doing to contribute to that?
Wow. Mm-hmm.
What am I doing? See, love and happiness is about ownership. Mm-hmm. It's about ownership. And the thing about it, and Kira, you brought up an excellent point. In the areas of intimacy, you do everything up front to get this person. And then you feel, well, you know what? I don't have to do that anymore. That's over. We can just get in the bed and go to sleep.
Right.
Here's the danger in that. That passion is so important in a relationship because what it does, if it's lacking, it actually forces the person to look outside of that relationship. Yes. See, my thing is, I give my wife all that she needs, at least, and if I'm not, I'll ask the question, what is it you need from me? See, my job is to make her happy. My job is to keep a smile on her face. Our relationship has grown over the years more passionate. And not that it wasn't passionate in the beginning, but it has grown.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you have to keep it real and be realistic. That when there are children involved, especially when there's children involved, and that's an issue that I've had a lot of women come to me about is I'm tired.
Yes.
I've got school, I've got work, I've got the kids, and now my husband want to jump on. And that's hard. And then I got laundry, and then I got dishes, and I got to cook, and I got to study. And I mean, it's just a lot. And so you have to really purposefully make that time for your husband. Get you some B12 shots.
And like I always say,
vitamins or something.
Like we always hear, you have to make time for what's important. So if that's important to him, it should be important to you.
It should be important to you.
I mean, because that's going to be the key factor in keeping your relationship thriving.
Yeah.
I mean, not only that, but as Minister Jones said, it forces people to look outside the relationship if they don't have that covering.
Exactly.
And that is a covering from two different standpoints, spiritually and physically. And so if we don't have that, then how can we really have true happiness? How can we really have true love? And a lot of couples, are not happy because the bedroom is not happening.
It's not happening. And here's the thing, is that it's important to understand this. For a man, that intimate part, believe it or not, ladies, is a reaffirmment of his strength.
Wow.
So that it's going to seem foreign what I'm getting ready to give you. When a man is intimate, what happens is this guy is saying, my day has been so stressful. There's been a lot of shifts. There's some things that happen on my job. I'm not getting the job I want. And it's in order for a man to stay focused, that one small thing keeps him in the fight.
Wow.
So the thing is that what's really powerful is women, because they're emotional beings, receive that stress. They process that stress, and then they wash that stress off of them. Yep. That is a gift that was given to a woman. That's why women deal emotionally better with issues than men.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a wonderful episode of Love Factor. I'm Kiara D.